Hello, it's time again for another edition of Discipleship Today. My name is Bob Benson. I'm the pastor of Christ Lutheran Church in Bemis Point, and we're going to just jump right into the Word this morning. We've been using the book of John as kind of a guide, kind of a picture of the way Jesus discipled. John was known as the beloved disciple. He had a special relationship with Jesus, and it's through his record that we really get a glimpse of that special relationship that they had. I'm going to jump right into John 2, and we're going to start at verse 1, and we're going to read down through to the end of verse 12, and then we're going to talk about a little of it. And on the third day there was a wedding at Cana in Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Jesus also was invited to the wedding with his disciples. When the wine ran out, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." And Jesus said to her, "Woman, what does that have to do with me? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to his servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Now there were 6 stone water jars there for the Jewish rites of purification, each holding 20 or 30 gallons. Jesus said to his servants, "Fill the jars with water." And they filled them up to the brim. And he said to them, "Now draw some out and take it to the master of the feast." So they took it. When the master of the feast tasted the water, now become wine, and did not know where it came from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew, the master of the feast called the bridegroom. And he said to him, "Everyone serves the good wine first, and when the people have drunk freely, then the poor wine. But you have kept the good wine until now." This, the first of his signs, Jesus did at Cana in Galilee, and manifested his glory, and his disciples believed in him. After this, he went down to Capernaum with his mother and his brothers and his disciples, and they stayed there for a few days. We get a glimpse here, and I know that everybody's read this before. This is the first miracle that Jesus performed, but we get some glimpses here into some Old Testament context and some Old Testament history. These Jewish rites of purification stone water jars, they were sacred. They were set aside just to be used for the Jewish rites of purification. When something was sacred, it was used for nothing else. And I think that's interesting that these containers, they weren't clay, they weren't pottery, they were stone. They were hand-hewn out of stone, so they were something very, very expensive and very, very special. But in it, we also get a glimpse of what baptism looked like before Jesus. The Jewish rite of purification would take place in a mikvah. A mikvah was a stone set of steps that went down into a container, usually cut out of stone, and it would have to be filled, and the Jews would have to dip themselves in it. And when you see there are 6 water jars, each holding 20 to 30 gallons of water, it gives you a picture that this was a full immersion cleansing. So we think of baptism as this new thing in the New Testament, but it really was something that was practiced in the Old Testament. Now, they didn't call it baptism, but it was a Jewish rite of purification. In the Old Testament, we're told that the priests had to wash themselves before they went into the temple. It was the same with the Jewish men and the Jewish women, had to be completely washed. The other thing is they had to use living water or moving water. So they would take these jars down and fill them up at a creek or in the Jordan River, and then they would bring them back and fill these mikvahs. And it really gives us a picture of what's going on, this transition, Old Testament to New Testament. Now, there are some people that say, well, this was just grape juice, and I gotta tell you, the indication here in the text is that it was good wine. And one of the characteristics of good wine is it was aged. So, can God create something with the appearance of age? And I would say he completely does. He has in this world, and he did here in this section of Scripture. And it wasn't about getting drunk, but it was about having good things. God wants to give us good things. And it says there, the other thing that just jumps off the page at me is that line in the last half of verse 11. and his disciples believed in him. This is not the last time that we're going to see this statement throughout the book of John. It will say, I think in 8 different places, and then his disciples believed in him. Is this a saving belief? I think that this was a process that these disciples walked through. Because at the end of Jesus' life, says something to Peter. And then Peter gives the good confession. And I think it's that point, when we get to that point where we say, Jesus, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God, is the salvific moment. That's what saves us. We believe in him and we are saved. And we're going to see this throughout. It's a process that they walk through. Now, I know the exact minute, the day that I was saved. And I'm not telling you that you shouldn't have that moment. But I'm telling you, for some people, it's a long, long process till they can get there. Just because somebody doesn't remember the exact minute and day doesn't mean that they're not saved. And thank goodness, none of us are the righteous judge. We're fruit inspectors. We get to inspect the tree and see the quality of the fruit on it. Please, don't set yourself up as the righteous judge. As you disciple, remember that you're leading people along this process. If you're a step ahead of them, you can lead them. And that's what it takes, is a heart sold out for Jesus. Ask them to follow you as you follow the Master. So for Discipleship Today, I want to thank you for tuning in. Just go out there and disciple.